Why Pokemon doesn't care if their games are bad.
How did Pokemon, the most successful media franchise in the world, go from making greatness to making this? Each new game seems to piss off more and more fans, dumbing things down and never innovating.
This looks like a GameCube game scene. It's just the repeating water texture, the repeating stone texture.
The creators know what's happening. They know the games aren't great. They just don't care anymore. The Pokemon games are no longer the focus of the companies behind the brand. But it didn't used to be.
I mean, bro, Pokemon has been around I don't know, since I was like 10, I think. It's been around for, I don't know, 15, 20 plus years.
This way, the old games captured generation after generation, pulling us along for each new adventure. Every age group was excited for what came next. And it all started in the 90s. At the end of the 20th century when I was growing up, if you weren't playing Pokemon on your Game Boy, you were watching the show. If you weren't watching the show, you were trading cards at school. And if you weren't doing that, you thought Digimon was cool and you had no friends.
No, you did all of that. You played Pokemon, you watched Pokemon, you'd watch Digimon, and you just didn't care, dude. You're a little kid.
What? Yeah, dude, don't you know? It's all about the Pokemon video game now.
But seriously, Pokemon took over the world at the time. I remember pleading with my parents to go see the Pokemon first movie in theaters as a kid. It was intense, it was emotional. It was everything a 6-year-old kid could want from a movie. I mean, good hell, seeing those Pokemon exhausted from fighting one another still gives me the feels. This is when Pokemania began. Backpacks, lunchboxes, headgear, underwear. If you could slap a Pikachu on it, you did. Even Jeff Bezos was mocking anybody that didn't know Pokemon.
If you guys don't know what Pokemon is, you are...
And all this popularity, all this Pokemania can be traced back to those first 2 games.
Oh yeah.
Unlike most media franchises, Pokemon didn't start as a book, a movie, or TV show. It started as a video game. And when those first Pokemon games released, they were like nothing we'd ever seen before.
Bro, when I got this game, I think this was like the first Game Boy game I ever played. And when I first got it, I think I spent like an hour or two inside of your own room because up until that point, I never played any, I don't know, video game or at least any like Game Boy game up until that point. So I'd start the game, put it in. What did I have? Did I have blue? I think I started with blue first. And I'm sitting there, and when you start the game, you load up in your bedroom of your house. I think I spent like an hour or two in my bedroom trying to figure out how to get the fuck out. I didn't realize that you had to go over the stairs and hit like the D-pad into like away from the room to like go down the stairs. And then once I did that, I didn't realize that you had to walk over the carpet because, you know, once you go down the stairs, you're in your living room. I didn't realize you have to walk over like the welcome mat in your house and you hit out, like, you know, away to like walk out of your house. I was stuck on like just trying to leave my home. You know, I tried to give it to my mom to see if she could figure out how to do it. I was damn near on the precipice of telling my mom to like return the game because I was like, oh, where the fuck are all the Pokemon? I'm in my room. But yeah, that was my very early interactions with this game. But you know, eventually I was able to get out and enjoy the rest of the game.
They had crazy looking creatures, an incredible world to explore, and it was a JRPG story I could actually follow, unlike some others. Let's just say if you had a Game Boy, you had Pokemon. And if you include Yellow version, those first games sold over 45 million copies, surpassing Tetris as the best-selling Game Boy title. Nintendo and Game Freak had struck gold.
Just gold everywhere.
From all this success, the Pokemon Company was born with 3 companies at the helm: Nintendo, Creatures Inc., and Game Freak. These companies needed someone to manage the Pokemon brand, someone to oversee the TV shows, movies, the card game, and merchandise. The games were meant to be the focus of these 3 companies, and everything else was secondary. So with their new partnership in place and the Pokemon Company managing the brand, Nintendo, Creatures Inc., and Game Freak got to work on their next series, Silver and Gold. Everything about this generation was awesome. It took the original formula and just dialed it up, adding new Pokemon, new features, and a whole new world to explore. Not to mention those colors really popped when you slapped the light on your Game Boy Advance.
True.
Game after game took Pokemon to new heights. And when the 4th and 5th generation rolled around, the series had really hit its stride. They had great animations, post-game content, pacing was on point, and new mechanics amplified that core gameplay. It felt like the series would just get better and better. But then something happened. In 2013, Pokemon X and Y was released, switching from a 2D world to a 3D. And sadly, that wasn't the only thing to change.
Yeah, I never played any of this stuff. Like, I think, when did I stop? I think I stopped on, like, season 3 or 4. One of those is when I stopped, like, playing Pokemon. So all of this is just, like, over my head.
The story was subpar, the animation stripped down to fit 3D, and the hand-holding was incessant. Not to mention the game had way less content than past entries. Let's just say long-term fans were not happy.
Your fantasies can't ever be quenched, can they?
But even after the screw-up, things kept getting worse. Gen 7 was a slog with all the cutscene battles. Gen 8 was too easy, lacking way too much content at launch. And Gen 9 was a disgrace on all accounts, easily earning its spot as the worst
dude just walking through the Pokemon battle.
Pokemon game in the series. While the games have been okay to mediocre since Gen 5, they had never come out completely broken. The players got even more pissed, and they couldn't understand why the games were getting worse. How could the developers let this happen? This is where a lot of fans have been left confused. I mean, how can a game made by 3 prominent billion-dollar companies look like this? Whose fault is it? Is it Game Freak, the company that develops the game? Is it Creatures Inc., the company that models and animates the Pokemon? Or is it Nintendo, the publisher? Most, of course, blame Game Freak. They're the ones developing the game. They should take the blame. Nintendo just publishes it, and I agree, but we should look past Game Freak for a second and focus our attention on Nintendo, the company that is renowned for giving us amazing games time and time again. The company known for its sequels, always reinventing the wheel and adding some new flavor. They care so much about making sequels better that they refused to make another Star Fox because Miyamoto didn't have any new ideas to bring to the game. And
oh, dang. I didn't know that. We worked on some ideas around Star Fox back during the Wii days, but the problem was that we didn't have any new ideas to bring to the game. I wasn't particularly interested in just making another Star Fox game with better graphics and better sound, so we set that aside back then. This time, as we were. Oh, that's pretty fair. But it's funny, he thinks like that for Star Fox, but not with Pokemon.
He wasn't particularly interested in making another Star Fox game with better graphics and better sound. So innovation matters. It matters a lot to Nintendo. But if that's the case, why let Pokemon slide into mediocrity?
Well, it's because Pokemon has gone through, up to 9 generations of, gone through the ringer 9 times already. Like, how much more? Like, we're on iPhone levels of generational upgrade. Like how much more can you innovate? What are you gonna do? Give the Pokemon like 54 megapixels? Like what?
Has Pokemon been stagnant for 10 years? Some may say Nintendo doesn't make the game, so it's not their fault. Or Nintendo only owns 32% of the Pokemon company, so they don't have full control over the games that release. This is where the truth comes out. Yes, Nintendo only owns 32% of the Pokemon company, but they do own 10% of Creatures Inc. And Game Freak's office is literally inside the building owned by Nintendo. Nintendo is the big brother here. As the publisher and the majority shareholder of Pokemon, since they own part of Creatures Inc., Nintendo can do whatever they want. They definitely aren't being bullied into letting the 2 other smaller companies release a busted-ass game. Nintendo isn't a bystander. They know what is happening. They just don't care. You see,
they just let it ride.
With all the other Nintendo IPs, Mario, Zelda, Metroid, etc., these franchises make most of their money off game sales. Crazy, I know, but let's look past the obvious and study the Mario franchise for a moment. The Mario IP has made $36 billion since 1981, and $30 billion of that is game sales. Cool, makes sense. The Zelda franchise has made around $3.5 billion, with the majority of that money coming from game sales. Also makes sense. But Pokemon, an IP that is much younger than Zelda and Mario.
Damn. Bro, look at the coins. There's no shot that this is all game sales. If anything, this is more like merch. Like non-game sales. Like, that's insane.
Has made over $90 billion.
Bro, that's almost $1 trillion.
Making it the most valuable media franchise in the world, more than Marvel, more than Mickey Mouse, more than almost every Nintendo franchise combined. And
bro, it's crazy when you think about it like that. You think of like the massive machine that is Marvel versus Pokemon, and then you just sit there and compare them like that. Like, whoa. Like 90 billion? 1 billion is crazy. Then you're going to go over here and pop off at like 90 billion? 10 more billion and you got $1 trillion.
And you know how much of that has come from game sales? Only 17 billion. Don't get me wrong, the Pokemon games make money, but they don't make what I call stupid money, where it feels like money is just being printed. Something else is printing money for the Pokemon company, and since the early 2010s, the Pokemon games took a backseat for this new cash cow, merchandise. Over 2/3 of Pokemon's revenue comes from merch, $62 billion and counting, with some websites saying a lot more. That cute Eevee plushie you have, or that weird Pikachu smelling perfume, these
What, that's a thing?
things are now the focus of Nintendo, Creatures Inc., and Game Freak, not the games. And when you look at it from a business perspective, it all makes sense. Who is Pokemon's core audience? Is it the 30-year-olds like me who played Red and Blue in 1998? Is it the people that want a highly competitive experience or a world they can explore without being told where to go? No! It's the impressionable 6-year-olds who are asking their mom and dad to buy them the newest Pokemon game. It's the new generation that will fall in love with the new Pokemon. Most kids don't care if the game has endgame content. They're not angry when the game is too easy. It's probably the perfect difficulty. This is all intentional, aside from the buggy trash heap of Scarlet and Violet.
What
the
the
goal
fuck?
of the Pokemon Company is to make the next generation fall in love with Pokemon. They already got me 20 years ago. They got some of you 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Now there's 10 or even 5 years ago. The games are the entry point in the Pokemon business model, so they need to be simple and accessible, something children will pick up easily and fall in love with immediately. It's just like how Walt Disney pictured Disney Studios in 1957.
Dang.
Walt believed that films were just the entry point, a place to hook its audience, primarily children, with its incredible stories and characters. But the company really made money off what came with it. TV, music, amusement parks, merchandise, all these webs interconnect, creating the media behemoth we know today. And it plays a huge role in the downfall of Disney. They have forgotten why all these business arms work. The need to make good movies. Even if it's not the core moneymaker, it's the hook. It's what brings people into the Disney mania, giving us Disney adults. So just like Disney, I believe this is the Pokemon Company's strategy.
Oh, look, it's game trailers. Oh, Jesus.
So just like Disney,
Bro, it's game trailers. I remember this website. I used to visit this website a ton. Oh, my God. I wonder if there's still a thing, gametrailers.com.
I believe this is the Pokemon Company's strategy.
Probably not.
Pokemon games are meant to hook each new generation, bringing them to the shows or to the stores or the future amusement park rides, creating adults who care way too much and who say they're buying a Pikachu plushie for their kid, but it somehow ends up in their office instead. All this plays into the Disney model, with each generation falling in love with the Pokemon games they had as a kid. Yes, in a lot of ways, the games have gotten worse, and in some instances, unplayable. But part of the problem is that we want adult Pokemon games. We want to experience what we had as a kid, but in a new way. It's a
I mean, that is true, and it's probably true of more than just Pokemon. You can look to Star Wars for this. You can look at kind of Marvel to this. Like the early Star Wars movies were fine and dandy, but you know, you go throughout time, and then you see like what came out, and then all of a sudden you realize, hey, there's no adult Star Wars movies, in that there's never any like exploration of, I don't know, taboo subjects to that are maybe more interesting to tell a story about, any more, I don't know, adult themes or anything like that to, I don't know, try to examine under the lens of the Star Wars universe that I think could be like interesting. But I don't know, it's just for whatever reason, this is true of like every source of media. Like, unless the media was like made with having the adult themes in mind already, most of the time all your popular stuff is always, there's going to be like a large like kid demographic baked into it, it seems. It's just, it is what it is. And for you to like want an adult version of your favorite, I don't know, kid show or kid IP, I think it's just asking too much of the creators, because I've never seen really any I don't know, just IP transform itself from like going to like a kid based audience to like an adult based audience. I just have never seen that happen.
Huge reason why Pokemon Go was so successful. It was a callback to our childhood, but in a form we could enjoy as adults. And Niantic knew their audience. They didn't release Pokemon Go with new generations of Pokemon, they chose the first generation. They wanted to hook all those millennials, which is why the game has made over $6 billion. And your mind may be thinking, there, right there, that's a reason to make great games for adults. They make lots of money. But the problem is, it's hard to recreate the magic. The timing of Pokemon Go, the insane amount of hype around this game was unheard of. With all the right ingredients, this phone app still has only made $6 billion, where merch makes billions every year and it's stable. It's repeatable and it's growing. Like most companies, Nintendo is driven by making money consistently. They like making stupid money. And most of the time, making a great game that's innovative and groundbreaking makes them the most money, like Tears of the Kingdom or Super Mario Odyssey. But in this situation,
in this situation, when you're going to try to ask a company to take a big risk and to try to hook in older fans versus like, it seems like it's always going to be easier to extract money from little kids than it is adults. It's just, it is what it is, man. That's the long and short of it. If you're trying to get money, just make some sort of product that little kids can buy.
The real breadwinner for Pokemon is merchandise. So will we see better Pokemon games in the future? Hopefully. Will they make more experiences targeting adults? Probably not. But if these three companies start going down the road Disney is going, releasing games like this, people will choose other options and the love for the brand will decline. As Satoru Iwata once said, if we stay in one place, we will become outdated. Nintendo and the other Pokemon companies need to innovate. And if Pokemon is going to last another 10, 20, 50 years, becoming a behemoth to rival companies like Disney, they need to learn from Disney's mistakes and make games that work and that everyone can enjoy. This week's indie game highlight is Hellthrone, a fast-paced action roguelike game with bullet hell elements. Matt, a developer in our community, announced he's releasing the game on Steam the 15th of November. Hellthrone is tons of fun, and I highly suggest you pick up a copy when it releases. Please go support Matt and check out Hellthrone. Thanks so much.
Nice. Man. I haven't really been paying attention to Pokemon games since, I don't know, since like years ago, really. Like I used to play the card game. I used to play like some of the video games. Like I remember playing Pokemon Stadium like on the N64, and that shit was awesome. And I would watch like the movies for a little bit until they just, until I grew out of them more or less. But I don't know. It's just Pokemon is just one of those like IPs where they make it and they expect it to be timeless. That's why Ash hasn't like really aged Ash is like the same age. He's just, yeah, you know, the same thing with The Simpsons or South Park. The characters don't age, and then they're just there to attract a specific target audience. And it is what it is, man. So who knows? You know, maybe the games will get better in the future, but I doubt it. But no, I think there's a cool video though. I mean, yeah. All right, that's enough bullshitting for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.